If you grew up playing single-player games like me, the transition to fighting games can feel rather jarring. When games have taught you that execution is everything, up until you start to get serious about Smash, it can be easy to have tunnel vision and do the same things regardless of what your opponent is doing. The objective of this video is to help players understand how to start observing and acting on what your opponent does. Conditioning. Suppose you're playing chess against an AI. The AI's objective is to find a perfect counter to your move at one specific time. It's the same with the high-level CPU in Smash. You perform an input, and the CPU makes a move that will beat it. The difference between playing against a CPU and a human being is that a computer doesn't store information. It is only concerned with beating your move with its own move. If you do X, it will do Y. A person will gather information and, if they are exceptionally good, will store it for a later time to body you many times harder than a CPU ever could. In essence, the CPU is observing you to counter you, while the person is observing you to understand you. This is a big reason why you can't condition a computer. So, what is conditioning? Simply put, it's tricking somebody. In 3 parts, here's how it works. 1. Gathering data. 2. Creating an expectation. 3. Thwarting that expectation. Tomahawk grabs are some of the most straightforward forms of conditioning. So, say you're short hopping at the opponent and hitting them with laning aerials. After getting hit a few times, they start to shield. Using data collection, you've uncovered a tendency to shield against short hop pressure. Now, by hitting them a few more times with good spacing so you can avoid getting punished, you have created an expectation. If he short hops, he will land with an attack. So your opponent has determined that short hops equal landing attacks. The way that Tomahawk grabs thwart that expectation is as follows. Seeing a short hop, the opponent shields in preparation for the landing aerial. You thwart this by empty hopping, landing with no lag, and grabbing their shield. Data collection determines that they shield. The expectation that a short hop means pressure is created. Lastly, that expectation is thwarted by an empty landing into a grab. The reason why Tomahawk grabs are such a common and effective form of conditioning is that shielding against aerial pressure is a common and logical response at all levels of playing Smash. Conditioning is tricking the opponent into doing an action they are prone to do, meaning that if they don't have a tendency, you can't make them do what you want them to do. For example, if an opponent doesn't jump out of shield, trying to force them to is a waste of your time. This is why I cannot overstate the importance of data collection. You have to understand your opponent's preferences to even consider conditioning. It's easy to trick somebody into doing what they want at a bad time, but it's impossible to trick somebody into doing exactly what you want. Imposing your will on the opponent is unrealistic. You need to understand what they want, why they want it, and when they want it. So, if it's so vitally important, how do you get data on the opponent? You have to take calculated risks. If a good opponent doesn't feel like they have to do anything, they won't give you anything you can glean from the situation. This is why pressure with effective spacing is crucial. Your objective is to be able to say, okay, so usually, when I do X, they do Y. Richter, as an example, if I throw the cross, they jump over it. If I use holy water while they're on ledge, they roll in. Try to be as specific as possible. Something like, they like to jump, doesn't tell you much. Understanding when and why they like to jump is something you can work with. Using a move or a strategy that's difficult to deal with is the best way to make your opponent start revealing how they think. Ike Snare is a great example of a move that is difficult to deal with as it covers lots of options, is safe when spaced, and rewards you with a combo. That said, if your opponent can't deal with what you're throwing at them, there's no reason to change your strategy. A trap people fall into is trying too hard to outplay an opponent they can just lame out. You only need to be one step ahead of somebody who won't adapt. Don't even worry about being 2 steps ahead because you're going to start stumbling over yourself and second-guessing yourself. So, when you know that if you do X, your opponent does Y, the next step is creating an expectation. Say you've thrown your opponent off stage and discover that they like to recover low. By focusing on ledge traps rather than going off stage to pressure them, you will make them grow accustomed to returning to ledge for free. In other words, they now have an expectation that you won't challenge their recovery. If I get thrown off stage, I can just recover low and I'll be fine. Now you know what they want, why, and when they want to do it. The thing to do now is thwart the expectation that you created in your opponent. Here's the thing, though. There is a good time and a bad time to do so. If you want to get the maximum amount of use out of creating an expectation, you should thwart that expectation in a situation where there is a guarantee that you can take a stock, or, if you're playing the long game, a game or even a set. Once you hard punish a player's option that you've conditioned, they will more than likely avoid throwing that option out the rest of the time they play you. If they know what's good for them, that is. Consider the prior X and Y statement from above. If you throw the opponent off stage, they recover low. You won't want to go for an edge guard if you know that they could survive, as you reveal your plan to little effect and compromise your position. Worse yet, they will be aware that you're actively trying to cover their low recovery. Suddenly, an option just as effective as a kill confirm is completely taken away from you. On the contrary, if you thwart the expectation at a time where it will guarantee a gimp or a stock taken, you'll be able to use conditioning to make a huge play and possibly chip away at your opponent's mindset. Sun Tzu said, "All warfare is based on deception." Your goal isn't to simply beat an opponent, it's to outplay them. Conditioning is knowing about their tendencies, as well as figuring out how to activate them. It's a skill that only the patient, focused, and alert can master. I leave you with this thought. Are you playing Smash like a one-player game, or a two-player game?